Okay, if Atlanta, that's my washing machine. No intro.
I want some nasty. Are we having fun yet?
Okay, so if you guys hear my washing machine go off again, I really do apologize. It's really, really loud. But if Atlanta Hawks fans tell you, if any Atlanta Hawk fan tell you that they are happy with the situation they are in right now as a fan of their team, they are lying to you, okay? They are absolutely lying to your face. I've been keeping up with the Atlanta Hawks, and I know a lot of people say, oh, is it because it's petty? Is it because, oh, Dejounte Murray, you got beef with Dejounte. You don't really care for Dejounte. It has nothing to do with that. It actually, okay, maybe a little bit, all right, like 2%, but most of it has to do with the fact that we do have some of their future picks, and it is in our best interest that they start falling apart. So by the time that we get their pick, and we have like an unprotected pick from the Atlanta Hawks, they're a pretty bad team and they possibly are rebuilding or just trying to get things together. So it's in our benefit that they are really bad, okay? That this isn't, this duo doesn't necessarily work out for the Atlanta Hawks. And it's just the reality of it, okay? I am a Spurs fan and I want us to have some really great picks in the future. But that's besides the point, okay? Just right now, if we're talking about the here and now, the Atlanta Hawks are just as bad as the Spurs. But I would argue worse than the Spurs because we're where we're supposed to be at, where we want to be at. Atlanta Hawks are nowhere near where they expect it to be. So let's look at this. So this is worst true shooting percentages among 20 points per game scorers. So, this is included all shots, all right? 3-point shots, free throws, all that good stuff. And we can see here Kelly Oubre, pretty doggone bad. Dejounte Murray at number 2, well, really number 3, and we'll get into that, 53%, okay? So this whole thing, and I bring this up all the time, okay? And the next person I'm gonna talk about, we're gonna bring it up, is when people talk about who's a star, who's a superstar, and all that good stuff, I don't necessarily know if you can just look at the numbers as far as, oh, the points per game and say, oh, they're averaging this amount, they have to be great. Not necessarily. Like if their true shooting percentages are pretty low, you're going to have to compensate for that in other ways. And I don't necessarily believe, as long as I've been watching Dejounte Murray, and this isn't like hindsight, this isn't something that I'm just now bringing up. I said this even when he was with the San Antonio Spurs. He doesn't do enough of other things that can compensate for his shooting. His shooting sometimes is inefficient, sometimes he's inaccurate, inconsistent. I mean, not inaccurate, inconsistent. And that's the same thing for a lot of guys that's been on our team over the last couple years, just inconsistency. And he was one of them. But last year he did have a breakout season, if you will. And even this year he has quite a few games where it's near triple doubles. So he can put up some triple doubles. I just don't necessarily believe that a lot of the other things to his game is compensating for his inefficiency. I mean, that's just me though. And next you got Keldon Johnson, which I kind of expected this. So a lot of people are saying he's having a breakout season. Now I'm going to save that for another video because Popovich in particular has something to say about Keldon Johnson. I will say this, I keep saying it, I stick by it. He doesn't supposed to be a star, nor do I even think that a lot of Spurs fans believe that he's a star, superstar. I think most Spurs fans are buying into the fact that anyone on this team at this point that has the potential is probably Devin Vassell, Malachi Branham, Jeremy Sohan, like guys like that. And I know quite a few people have said Blake Wesley, but I don't think anyone really thinks that Keldon Johnson is a true future superstar at this point, or future maybe star. I think he'll be an all-star eventually, but I'm not going to go out and say he's going to be a big star for the Spurs, big superstar, anything like that. But moving on, Ja Morant, this one actually shocked me quite a bit. You guys know I really like Ja Morant as far as his game and everything, but he does compensate for it. If you watch a lot of Memphis Grizzlies games, he gets a lot of attention, like a stupid amount of attention. Okay, so he does create for his teammates in that regard. Okay, it's just so much attention put on him that yeah, it helps out his teammates, and they just have a really good foundational team anyways. But moving on, we're not talking about the Grizzlies. Okay, Trae Young 55.2%. that is pretty. Wait a minute, no, it gets worse than that. his field goal percentage, okay? So this is his true shooting percentage, 55.2% at number 7. But he has the worst field goal percentage of any 20-point per game scorer, and that's 41.5%. Now, if you're wondering how bad the Atlanta Hawks have been, well, if we look at here, this is their offensive efficiency of last year. They were number 2, which is kind of wild and it seems off, but no, they were number 2 in the NBA as far as efficiency. San Antonio Spurs 18, if you care. But if you look at them this year, so they went from number 2, and currently they are number 21. They literally went from number 2 in the NBA all the way down to number 21. So their efficiency is bottom of the barrel, like bad, like worst 10. Some of the worst teams in the NBA, they're right there with them. If you look at the San Antonio Spurs, we're 28 this year, so we're where we're supposed to be. You would say Charlotte, Houston, San Antonio, Orlando, Detroit. You don't even count any of those. Clippers, ooh, that's not good. Miami, that's not good. No one expected that. Oklahoma, yeah, we would expect that. Milwaukee, you wouldn't expect that. But the Atlanta Hawks, ooh, that is not great. Actually, out of curiosity, where was Milwaukee last year? They ended up 6. Okay. Well, we'll see. They still have some time. Like I said, Atlanta Hawks are really bad, but they still have some time to get this thing together. But I'm going to be completely honest, and I've said this over and over again. With everything that's coming out of this camp, I know a lot of Atlanta Hawks fans have hit me up and like, no, dude, you don't know. Like, now everything's cool now. And every time I bring something up, they have something to combat it. Like how I said John Collins and Trae Young weren't necessarily getting along together. And they would use evidence of, no, they came out publicly and said, no, we're brothers, we're cool. Or the fact that Trae Young basically ran off his first coach. And a lot of people say, well, the whole team didn't really want that coach around, which I do agree with. But then there's people even sticking up for Trae Young when it comes to this current coach, Nate McMillan, in which he didn't even show up to one of his games. Like, I don't know. That's not good. That's bad. And now there's reports saying that there's even teammates on his team that's not necessarily happy with playing with him. So I have no idea what the Atlanta Hawks are going to do, but I'll tell you this, if this doesn't work out, we are set for the future. Because here's the thing, Trae Young and Dejounte Murray, they paired these two together not to be 9th in the East. Actually, let me look this up really quick. Let me make sure, because last time I checked, they were 9th. I spelled NBA wrong. They were 9th, but let's see. They are, yeah, they're still 9th. Okay, so yeah, they did not pair them up for them to be 9th this deep into the playoffs, to be an under 500 team. And not only that, you compound that with the fact that Dejounte Murray is going to ask for more money. Like we knew that. That's why the San Antonio Spurs were even more quick to go ahead and give him up. Dejounte is one of those really weird players and rare players where he's good enough to demand a decent chunk of the player caps or whatever, he's good enough to demand a pretty good salary in the NBA. Okay, there's no denying that. The fact that he can rebound well, the fact that he is really good off the pick and rolls, he can demand more money, but then he's not necessarily good enough to the point where he's going to push you over the top that would justify that signing. I don't necessarily think he's going to give you so many more wins that would justify that signing, but statistically it's like, oh yeah, he deserves the money. So it's a really weird thing, and DeJounte is one of those rare players that's right there in the middle. I feel like and this is just like me thinking in my head, and I could be completely wrong and this could be an idiotic take, but I think that Dejounte Murray, he might be one of those players that as he gets older, he's going to be put in much better situations because he's not going to be as good as he was before necessarily as far as athletic ability, but he still can do quite a bit as far as defense, rebound, all that good stuff. And then you could take him off the bench or something later on in his career on a really good team, and I think he'll be good enough. But as it stands right now, as him being in his prime, it's a really weird spot. Okay, so you have to pay him. You're already trying to get John Collins off of your books. And no one wants that contract. If you look at his stats, statistically, he's doing basically the same thing that a lot of archetypes of his type can do, but worse, and he's making more money. So it's going to be really hard to move him. It's just a really bad situation. And then with teammates not necessarily gelling with Trae Young right now, it's just bad. It's just bad. And we would assume, and I think the Atlanta Hawks assume this as well, but this might be a lot of different things going on, but we would assume that Trae Young would be shooting much better. Another thing too, and this will be the last thing I bring up, is Trae Young's three-point shooting, because that's basically what he's most known for. Like, obviously playmaking and all that good stuff, but let's look this up. So Trae Young, as far as, yeah, this is what we want. As far as his three-point percentage, it is dipped from 38% three-point percentage of last year to 31%. As far as his points per game, it's still stupid high, okay? Still stupid high, but his three-point percentage has dipped. Field goal percentage has dipped. And the only thing that gave him that decently good, it's not good. It's not good at all. But that true shooting percentage was his free throw percentage. But overall, this is not great. Okay, this is not good, especially with a player that's not great at defense due to his size and everything. It's just a bad situation. So hopefully this continues, but they suck. And I would harp on Keldon, but this is kind of what I expect, and I think the Spurs are content with that too. And he's still in his developmental stages. If anyone says Keldon Johnson is prime, you don't know what you're talking about. But anyways, I'll get with you guys later, man. If you want to support the channel, as always, claimthemerchfan.com or become a patron, a YouTube member, only $2 per month. I'll get with you guys later, man. Until next time, bye.